Hi, it's Ania from Divi Lover. I would like to show you today how to create Slim email sign-up form using Divi Optin Module. First, let's have a look at the demo page. I've made 3 different opt-ins. They are all very similar, but each requires a bit different CSS. Let's see how that scales for smaller screen sizes. And on the phone, they all look similar. Okay, so I have a new page created here. It uses the blank page template. As you can see, it's empty. And I will use the visual builder to create my opt-ins. With the latest Divi update, we have different options on the starting of the page, but this time we'll be building from scratch. I will add a row and opt-in module. Okay, so that's the default look. Let me paste my content here. Okay, just one quick note. I think you don't need any checkboxes to make your sign-up form GDPR compliant. You need your subscribers' explicit consent to send them emails, but a checkbox is not the only way to get this consent. Use your title and description to make sure that it's very, very clear that the user is consenting to a newsletter by signing up. We'll also provide a link to privacy policy in the sign up footer. So let me copy this here. Okay, I need to connect email account in order for this sign up form to be visible. And let me disable the name fields for this first version. Also, let's remove the background from the opt-in, because we'll set the background color for the section so it's full width. Let's do that now. I will go inside the section settings and change the background to black. I will also adjust the spacing in the design tab. Remove the top and bottom padding, and I will add some margin just to see better where the section starts and ends, but it's not necessary for your sign up forms. Okay, let me save this and save the changes, and I will preview my page here. First of all, I would like to reduce the font size for the footer text, but it's not possible within the opt-in settings. Let me show you real quick. In the design tab, the body text font size will be applied both to description as well as the footer. So we'll need a custom CSS to change the font size for the footer. I will add a CSS class in the DL Slim Optin 1. Okay, and now for this page settings in the advanced tab, we can add our custom CSS. Let me just save that. Refresh the page here. It won't change anything. But now if I right click and choose to inspect, we can check what HTML element is this footer. As you can see, it's a div with a class of ETPB newsletter footer. If I want to be specific to target only the footer for this particular opt-in, I will add my custom class. And I can change the font size to 80%. I will use percent because then it will always be 80% of the font size of the description of the body text. So if I decide to use smaller text for mobile, this will be even smaller. And you can see that it has a top margin of 20. We can remove that as well, since we want this form to be as slim as possible. Okay, great. Let me copy this CSS and add it to the page. I'll save that. Great. As you can see, it has a bit too big line height, so we should decrease it, but we can do it for the body as well, so it will be inside the module settings for the body text. Let's set it to 1.4 maybe. Okay, great. So now the most important part is to set these two fields to be next to each other horizontally. Let's see. The div that contains these fields is already using flex, so that's great, but each field inside that div has a flex basis of 100%. That's the width of the field. So we need to change that to a different number. We'll be targeting this CSS class at ETPB newsletter field, as well as this one, ETPB newsletter button wrap. Okay, so let's go back to our custom CSS. This field, and we want this to have a flex basis. If we set 50%, that they will touch each other. So let's say 49%. Save. Refresh the page. I think I copied the class for the button. Oh, it's here, DL. Okay, great. You can see that these fields aren't equal, have different height. We can change that by editing the font size for the button, but let's leave that for now. Let's see how that behaves on smaller screen sizes. That's looking good. And here for phone, we would want the email field to be full width. So we need to set media query to do that. We'll take those two fields and say that when the width is less than 479 pixels, that's the standard size for phone, we want these elements to have flex basis 100%. Save. See? Great. The other thing we can do is to set this text to be center aligned. We would also use a media query, but it could be centered for tablets as well. So that's max width of 980. And let's see what's the class for the description. And we already have the footer class. The footer we used here. We want this to have great. Actually, it's not 980, but it's 767. Let's change that. Yes, that's better. Okay, then we can play with the font size, but I'll leave it to you. Let's do the second one with two input fields. Let's close this and copy our entire section, duplicate, and now in the module settings we'll add another field. Let's use single name field, and also let's maybe leave the description and just use the title. That title needs to be smaller in size. Okay, and we can also, if we don't use description, we can change the body text size. And let's use different CSS class for this one. Okay. And now for the CSS. First of all, we would want this left column to be shorter, not half the width, but something like 30%. So we have more space for the fields. So let's check. Oh, actually it is our description. And the second column has the class of newsletter form. So let's use that. Let's make the form should be 70% and description 30%. Okay, that looks good. But if we save it like that, it will apply to all the screen sizes. So we want to use media query to target only large screens, only desktop. So 980 and up. Instead of max width, we'll use the min width. 981. Okay. And for the smaller screen size, we would want this to be back to full width. So we center align the title and have 3 fields in a row. So let's copy this and use max width 980 and set all of these fields so we can join the CSS to be 100% width. Let's see. But the container for these 2 columns is using flexbox as well, so we want to change that to block and it will work then. So we need to use a specific CSS like this. But this is a class of our Slim Optin 2. Let's make it a display block. There's padding for the form that we need to remove. Okay, great. Now let's take care of the fields. We don't want them to be full width. Let's check the CSS classes. We have ETPB newsletter field. Second has the same class and a class for a button. So let's maybe copy this and use it with our second opt-in and change the flex basis. We have 3 fields, so let's make it 33 pixels, maybe 32.5%, sorry. Okay, that looks pretty good. Wonderful. We should also remove the top margin from the footer. Let me copy this CSS for our second opt-in. We don't need to set the font size, as it can be set within the module settings, but we will remove the margin top. And now let's see how that behaves on smaller screen sizes. It's okay here, and right about here it should maybe change the width for 50%, 50% and 100% for subscribe button, and then full width for each on fonts. I think something around maybe 600 is where the fields are getting too short. So let's use a new media query. We want the input fields to be to have a width of 49%, and our button can be full width. Let's go below 600. Okay, that's almost good, but I didn't change the number here. Actually, I need our class here. Okay. Great, and on the even smaller size, we'll set this to be 100% wide. Okay, I think we've already, this CSS, we did that the same for the first one. So let's just change the button will already be 100%, so we don't need this, just the input fields. Okay, great. Let's remove that padding from the header. Let me see. Let's copy this. Here, where we setting our fields in this media query, we want Slim Optin to header to have a 0 bottom padding. Yes, that's better. Okay, we can also, and there's some space here, description. We should remove, that's the margin, bottom margin, you can see that here. So we can also remove that from the newsletter description, this class, in this media query. You can see that our CSS is being overwritten about more specific class, because it's targeting column as well. We can add that here. should help. Great. We can also center align text just the same way we did with the first one, but let's go to the third one instead. Okay, so just to show you real quick what's the difference, let's duplicate this section, and in the module settings we'll set first and last name fields. So we have 3 input fields plus the button, and let's align this all in one horizontal line with the title on top. Let's change that to number 3. Okay, and for our custom CSS, we want our description to be full width always. We can copy, we know the CSS class, it's this. Let me add that here for number 3. We also need to set the parent element to be display block and not flex like the second one. Okay, and we want our form to be full width as well. This class, we can add that here with number 3, and we want to remove this padding. Okay, lovely. And let's set our fields to be 25% or a bit less for some spacing. This CSS would be the same, but with different class name. 24.5 maybe. Lovely. Let's save that and let's check what's, oh yeah, that's the margin for the footer. We want to remove that. Let me, okay, that would be our footer class. It's margin top, I think. Yes, okay, so save that. Refresh the page. Probably right about here we would want to change it to 2 columns and maybe 3 column and then 100% width, and also fix the bottom padding the same as we did for the header here. So we can copy this, this one, but let's put that in a media query. I think right about here we'll change it to 50%. So this would be 49. Let's see how that looks. Yes, that's pretty good. And for the phone, 100%. Actually, let's copy this. Not this, just this. Great. I think that looks pretty good. Thanks for watching. You can download the JSON file with this layout or copy the CSS from my blog post. See you next time.